Right. Let me know when we're live.
Okay, we are live. Everyone is here and it is 6 o'clock. So if you'd like to kick things off, you are welcome to do so.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Historic Resources Preservation Special Board Meeting, April 29th, 2026. Could we get a roll call, please?
Elaine DeRisso.
Here.
Laura Devlin. Here. Bob Dorinzo.
Here.
Ken Gross.
Here.
Michelle Huffman. Here. Ed DeVoe.
Here.
Ed LeBlanc.
Here. Now that's how you do a board. I mean, come on. All right. Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Any additions, deletions, reordering?
None from staff.
Okay. Do we have to do the approval of the minutes, or is that for next?
Next. Those minutes will be with the regular meeting.
Thank you. Okay, swearing in of staff and applicants.
Stand and raise your right hand if you give testimony. You swear to affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say yes. Yes.
Thank you. All right, proof of publication we have. There is no withdrawals or postponements. Consent, public hearing, any board disclosures? I think we're good on that aspect. No one finished business. Okay, let's start. Oh, let's say what we're gonna do, please.
If I may, under board disclosures, we did have a board member who was thoughtful that they may have a conflict of interest. We reached out and received a written opinion from the Commission on Ethics that there is no conflict. So
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay.
And I did speak with one or two of you on the phone, but if you could just confirm that it will not affect your decision if you've spoken with staff.
I spoke with Ms. Hamilton earlier today, just to clarify, I was not understanding there's purposes option 1, option 2, which I couldn't ascertain what that meant. That was the extent of our conversation.
Okay, anyone else? All right.
And that would not influence anything.
thank you.
Okay,
Is all clear? Everyone's here, so what we're going to do is all three of them, and then we will have the discussions, the public comment, and the 3 votes at the end, rather than stopping and going this way. Ann could do the entire presentation. Yeah, okay.
and Lance has a presentation for us as well.
Okay,
So perhaps if we could save everything until after both the staff and applicant presentations.
yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Ann Hamilton presenting projects numbers 26-001-00063, which is a request for the relocation of 2 historic structures from 17 South M Street to 701 First Avenue South. Hrpb project number 26-001-00008, which is consideration of a certificate of appropriateness for new construction of a 4.5-story parking garage structure at approximately 25 South K Street, and ordinance 2026-05, which is inclusive of Hrpb project numbers 26-009-00001, 26-005-00001, and 26-014-00001, which is consideration of a request for a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan, conditional use permit, sustainable bonus incentive program, right-of-way abandonment, and unity of title for the development of the aforementioned parking garage and relocation of the structure. We will be doing all of these under one cover, but they will be broken out by project number as we go through, and hopefully that'll make sense as we move along. So this is the K Street Garage plan development that we'll be discussing tonight. To start with, we'll start with the relocation request, which, as I said, is a request for the relocation of 2 historic structures from 17 South M Street to 704 First Avenue South. The property at 17 South M is a contributing resource within the Old Town Historic District, And the existing and relocation sites are both located in the downtown zoning district and the Old Town Historic District. And the future land use designation is downtown mixed use. So you can see here a map of the existing and the proposed sites, which the arrow is directing from and to. The current structure at 17 South M, which you did see as a previous application under HRPB 25-001000068, was for relocation. It is currently housing the city's leisure services department. They have now moved out as of very recently. Sorry about that. And the existing location is on the west side of South M Street between Lake Avenue and First Avenue South, and the relocation site is to the northwest corner of First Avenue South and South K Street. So here's an aerial view of the existing structure, which is on the right, and the proposed location, which is on the left. As you heard before, the property at 17 South M Street consists of a primary structure and an accessory garage structure that were built in 1941 and rehabilitated in 2012 with some general window and door replacements, siding, metal shingle roof replacement, front porch reconstruction, and new brick driveway, and has most recently housed the city's leisure services department. The applicants are proposing to relocate the structures to a new site in the same historic district. So this is the relocation site plan for reference. You can see the broader site plan on the left with the garage, and then a zoomed in context as far as where those two relocated buildings will be going. The 17B building is that smaller garage structure, and the 17A building is the primary structure. So post relocation, there are kind of two options that the city is exploring for what it could look like. As shown here in the streetscape elevations that you'll see for the new construction of the garage and the planned development, there is an option to add a connector between that smaller garage structure and the primary structure. This would come back to you if we were to move forward with this decision. Although the site plan request is under this application, you would still need to see the architecture if they were to move forward with this. The other option would not require HRPB approval, as it would just be relocating the two structures and setting them down on a foundation on the new site. There is a sort of third option that is more unlikely, but if the city commission were to decide that relocation of the structure is not feasible, then we would also need to figure out an alternative use for the site, and we can discuss that a little bit later in the plan development briefly. So previously this was approved for relocation, as I said, under COA number 25-001000068. As you can see here, the structure is on a flat foundation. One of the conditions of approval that was included in your staff report is that when the ultimate relocation takes place, the foundation can be increased up to 18 inches without your review. This is pending relocation plans being finalized and construction documents being drawn up for that relocation. So as far as the analysis goes, the city's ordinance does have specific requirements for relocation that are shown here and were provided to you in your staff report. I'll run through those quickly. Essentially, the relocation is appropriate because it is relocated within the same downtown context, within the same existing historic district. It does still keep its association with residential properties in the surrounding area, and actually, in a sense, is being relocated closer to buildings that have more of a residential form and function in that new location at 704 First Avenue South. As you can see here, between 2007 and 2025, we've really lost a lot of the residential context that once existed in and around the site at 17 South M. So because of that, really the relocation is putting it back in a more residential character and is appropriate under that sense. There are no historic or archaeological resources. The relocation will be within the city. And I should say those are subsurface historic or archaeological resources. Obviously, the building itself is a historic resource. And one of the staff required conditions of approval would be documentation of the resource to be relocated. So as I mentioned, we have 5 conditions of approval. Staff recommends that these conditions of approval, which were included in your packet, are imposed. The applicant shall submit documentation of the existing historic structures, including photographs of each elevation and significant architectural elements or features as determined by staff prior to relocation. The applicant shall submit updated site file forms to the State of Florida Division of Historic Resources Florida Master Site File, which notes the structure's relocation. Similar to that, upon relocation, the applicant shall submit a designation application to the Department of Community Sustainability in order to update our Register of Historic Places and ensure that they are considered a contributing structure at their new location. Just as kind of a blanket condition, any subsequent, and I should say substantial alterations to the structure that wouldn't normally be approved at the staff level, including connection of the structures as proposed in the related plan development applications, shall be subject to HRPB review as applicable. And like we said, upon relocation, the overall height of the relocated structure may be adjusted at staff level for an increase of up to 18 inches above the grade as existing at the current location at 17 South M Street. So that's, as it exists in context now, which would allow for flexibility in foundation design. If it's a further increase in height, you would be seeing that. That would then become maybe a little bit out of design of the current structure as far as its current foundation. So that's why you would need to see that if it was further than that. So we'll get back to this later, but we do have 2 potential motions for this item, and you are making a final decision on this relocation. The applicant may appeal the board's decision to the city commission if you were to deny or approve, I guess, the application, but you are the final stop on this portion. So moving on, we also have a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for that garage structure as I referenced. This is a 4.5-story parking garage at approximately 25 South K Street. It's currently comprised of 3 vacant parcels and 2 surface parking lots and is a non-contributing resource to the Old Town Historic District. So this is the general location of where that parking garage will be located and the relocated historic structure you saw just now. It's approximately 13 South K Street, 19 South K Street, 25 South K Street, 710 First Avenue South, and 704 First Avenue South. And as I said, currently there are 2 surface parking lots owned by the city on the site, and then 3 vacant parcels that previously housed structures that have been demolished, so they're currently completely vacant. Here's the proposed site plan for the garage, just so you can see in context those relocated buildings and where the garage would sit on the site, as well as a more dimensioned plan where you can see, some of the interior space layouts, compact spaces, things like that. Here are your architectural elevations. As we alluded to before and as mentioned in your staff report, there are 2 options essentially for the relocation and for the garage itself. As far as design, this would be option number 1, which includes a green wall. It's a little bit difficult to see in the context of this particular elevation. Really, the only area where you're seeing that green wall is behind the porch on 17, the building that's currently at 17 South M. You can see it's kind of colored in the see-through version there. And then this would be the version without that green wall and without that connector between the 2 buildings. So just for context, it's a small change, but it is a slightly different south elevation between the 2. The west elevation between the 2 proposals is exactly the same. The east is really where you do see some change. We have that green wall. We do have a mural feature on the stair tower on the one side. That's where you can see kind of the color at full appearance there and the green wall going up it. Just for reference, that mural would need to come back to you if the applicant does decide to do a mural on that feature. We are making changes to the mural regulations, but even under our new mural regulations, this would need to come back to you guys. So that is a condition of approval as well. This is what it would look like without that green wall and without the mural, just for context. and the north elevation with and without. So here are some materials and finishes. You also have a material board provided by the applicant down there in front of the podium if you'd like a closer look, but just for reference. And some renderings of the garage so you can see kind of what it looks like in 3D context of its surroundings. So you can see the relocated buildings at 17 South M there, the parking garage entrance. Another view, there will be activated pop-up retail along the side of the structure on South K Street. And you can really see that green wall feature here as well. And then finally, a third view of it that really shows 17 South M a little bit better. So as far as the analysis for new construction, it's a little bit difficult, I would say, to, appropriately fit a new garage in a historic district, but the applicant has done a good job of selecting materials, textures, and essentially design that does fit within the surrounding broader historic district. It is larger in scale, but the width and massing are appropriate for a large scale development, and also in proportion to the width of structures in the surrounding vicinity. I would say in a sense, it's more appropriate infill for the surrounding urban fabric than having a gap, which a current surface parking lot or vacant lot constitutes. In a downtown core area, you really don't want, from a pedestrian, or really just lived experience, entire blocks where you're driving through the downtown and all you see are surface parking and vacant lots. It's not a pleasing or attractive or really, highest and best use for land within a downtown area.
Ms. Hamilton, may I interrupt you for a second? I've got a message that the folks on Zoom cannot see the slides.
Okay, we are sharing to Zoom. Well, I can try sharing again. Let's see. Well, let me just go shutting down and starting the screen share. Unfortunately, like last time, as much as we do want everyone at home to be able to see this, sometimes technical difficulties do happen. So hopefully the everyone listening on Zoom or YouTube can at least hear. Okay, so going back to the new construction, there is a variety in color and architectural finish materials across the garage. The applicant has taken care to provide different types of essentially voids in the structure that replicate windows, and it doesn't attempt to create a false sense of history or development. So it really is appropriate new construction for a historic district, insofar as a parking garage can be. So we are recommending that the proposed new construction is generally consistent with the historic preservation design guidelines and ordinance, and are recommending approval with the following two conditions. That any approved mural on the parking garage shall be subject to separate Hrpb review and approval, and that all conditions of approval from ordinance 2026-05 shall apply. And we're about to get into 2026-05, so you'll see those conditions when we go through the plan development. Here are the motions. Like I said, we'll come back to that. And as with the relocation, the new construction, the board is the final decision maker. So if there are any concerns about the design of the new construction, those are within your purview. Moving on, this is part of a broader plan development application under ordinance 2026-05. I'm not going to read all of the other project numbers to you because they're really under that one particular application. It is a request for a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan, conditional use permit, sustainable bonus incentive program request, a right-of-way abandonment, and unity of title. You did just see the two COAs. The unity of title will be at staff level, and the right-of-way abandonment is actually taken to city commission, but you do need the context just that we are abandoning a portion of an alley potentially in order to incorporate into this site area. So some background, the applicant is requesting approval of, like I said, the mixed-use urban plan development to construct an approximately 95,854 square foot parking structure, relocating two historic structures, as we discussed before, of approximately 1,609 square feet and approximately 415 square feet. A major site plan request to construct a mixed-use development over 75,000 square feet. That's because that parking garage is substantially over 75,000 square feet. And a conditional use permit request for both establishing a high-intensity vehicular use, which is a parking garage facility, and for a use over 75,000 square feet. And a sustainable bonus incentive program request, which is required for bonus height.
Excuse me, the slide says 7,500.
7,500. Sorry. So here's the development area and location map. You can see in purple that is the right of way to be vacated. That's approximately 5 feet wide of a 10-foot alley. And here's your site plan. So as we saw before for the new construction application for the garage, as far as the siting of both the garage and the relocated structures, this is for option 1 with that connector between the two historic buildings. As you can see, they're kind of joined in almost a U shape there. So this is showing the impervious area for the ground level and lot coverage for the ground level. And then in the smaller inset there, you can also see what applies for FAR for the ground and second and third levels. It's important for me to note that the parking garage itself, the first 3 levels are exempted from FAR under our code. So here is the second option for the site plan. Really, the only change that you'll be seeing there is the elimination of that connector between the two buildings. So that leads to a slightly smaller square footage overall for the option 2 site plan. And here's a look at the 4th and 5th level FAR. Really, the 5th level isn't a full level, but it does need to be shown for FAR purposes. And floor area ratio, so that is a regulatory technique that essentially details the amount of square footage total that is developable on a site, not just on the ground floor, but in 3D view. So as far as parking, this is what is being provided in the parking garage. We are getting 260 parking garage spaces in the new garage. As we'll see in the demolition plan, we're losing approximately 57 spaces in the parking lot on K Street currently, as well as about 9 on-street spaces for a net gain of 196 spaces. With about 15% compact spaces, 9 handicap spaces, and that should about cover it. So here's a lot of text about the site data. We will go through this in more detail as we go on, but just for your reference, so you do have the exact square footages here and we can go back and reference this as necessary. So like I said, this is the demolition plan for the current existing parking lot. I'm sure you've all parked in it many times. There's currently about 57 surface parking spaces and about 9 on-street spaces that will be removed here and replaced with this garage. And as you can see, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to get parking in that lot. So here's the first floor plan on the ground level, just for reference. The second level, third level, fourth level, and top level. It's a parking garage, so you're not getting a huge amount of variation in floor plan because it's really just parking spaces. So this is consistent with city plans such as the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has a number of goals and objectives which are included in your staff report that the parking garage promotes, including essentially the vibrancy of the downtown area, improving public infrastructure in the downtown, reusing historic structures within the downtown area, encouraging infill development, and other goals and objectives as shown here. It is also supported by the strategic plan, the CRA redevelopment plan, and the arts and culture master plan. Just to point out, the arts and culture master plan specifically itself actually calls out building a public-private partnership parking garage to encourage development in the downtown area. So not only is it supported by that, but really this broader application is directly called out in that plan. So just again for reference, this is a mixed-use urban plan development, which is intended to allow for flexibility in land planning and development techniques within mixed-use essentially developments within the city. And it is with the broader downtown zoning district. It has been reviewed for compliance with section 23.3-25 for mixed-use urban plan developments. The only incentive proposed is the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program request. And the request is generally consistent with the requirements in the downtown code, with the exception of a few items which will be discussed, that the applicant is requesting some relaxed standards from. So here,
If I could interrupt again, I've been informed that the screen sharing has stopped and you're stuck on slide 30. I know there are people watching at home. I don't know if somebody from tech can assist or.
is there anything we can, I don't think there's anything we can do, unfortunately. So
Scott?
yeah, unfortunately, we don't have anybody on call as far as I'm aware. So I am trying to read everything on the screen. Hopefully if anyone at home has any questions, you know, we'd be happy to send out this PowerPoint material after the meeting. But we probably do have to move forward. Unfortunately, our Zoom capabilities aren't perfect. So in the base downtown zoning district, you are required a minimum of 6,500 square feet as a lot, or 0.5 acres for a mixed-use urban plan development. This is providing 0.8 acres, inclusive of that strip of abandoned alley. Density is not relevant here because they're not providing any dwelling units. So to go through some of the zoning requests, they are asking for a few waivers, which I will highlight here. So they do have the requirement as a building above 30 feet in height, that the additional stories above that measurement are required to be set back on the front, rear, and any major thoroughfare side streets an additional 8 to 12 feet. That would cause some issues in a parking garage with site circulation, so they have requested a waiver from that particular requirement. They are also asking to use 90% for their impermeable coverage and 70% for their structure coverage under the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program. These are essentially the small lot categories rather than the large lot categories. Between option 1 and option 2, those would be 88 or 87% for impermeable coverage and 69 or 68% for structure coverage. And then they are asking for additional height under the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program. So in the downtown zoning district, you are allowed a maximum of 30 feet in height. Under tier 1 of the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program, you can get up to 45 feet in height. And then as a planned development under tier 2, you can get an additional 25% bonus above that, which is up to 56.25 feet. In addition, their top essentially element is a elevator overrun, which is considered an architectural element in our code, and is allowed an additional 10-foot overrun from that amount. Now, we do have a total overall max of 65 feet in the city, so they couldn't go above 65 feet, but they're only requesting 59 feet to the top of that elevator parapet. So again, here are the architectural elevations. One other item that they are requesting a waiver from is the requirement for 75% transparency on the ground floor. They are providing approximately 18 and 43% transparency. They have provided breaks in that green screening element, and really they are providing as much as possible for a parking garage, pleasing and pedestrian environment and variety in architectural breaks. So without those green elements, you can see they do still have those architectural breaks, but they do need a waiver to meet the full requirement of that particular section. So like I said, under the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program, they are requesting some bonus height. The total fee required as calculated by the applicant in their Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program worksheet would be $505,980. 50% of that is required to be paid to the city, because this is a city application. The commission could waive that, I believe, if desired, but that's something that would be at a commission level. And then 50% can be paid in qualifying improvements. So because this entire site plan application is for a public parking garage structure and the relocation of 2 historic structures, both of which are qualifying incentive features, all of their essentially proposals are qualifying features, and they are entitled to 50% of the incentive because the value of those 2 items is far more than the required amount. So just going through again the architectural elevations, I wanted you all to be able to see that top essentially height that you would be giving them the Sustainable Bonus Incentive Program request. The roof level on that elevator overrun is at 57 plus an additional 2 feet for the parapet for a total of 59. And then the dashed line there is essentially where that cutoff would be for that 30 feet, where they would need that additional 8 to 12 feet of setback for front, which is provided, side, street, and rear. Again, this really isn't necessarily feasible for a parking garage because of the way, parking garages tend to be very boxy. You can't have stepped back upper floors in a parking garage. So it is a request they're making. And then on the site plan, one of the conditions is they do need to at least mark their setbacks correctly on the site plan. There was a little bit of confusion with that additional step back. And then they are requesting from the landscape code a waiver from the street tree requirement along K Street. So they are required a mix of small, medium, and large street trees. And they were not able to provide those at the spacing that was required under the code, but they have provided as many spaced as possible, and I believe they'll address that in their presentation. So for analysis, the request is in keeping with the comprehensive plan, the CRA redevelopment plan, the arts and culture master plan, our major thoroughfare design guidelines, the land development regulations. Full analysis of all of these sections is provided in your staff report as far as whether it complies with conditions. So you can reference that. That would be several slides worth of just text. So I'd ask that you reference that in your staff report if possible. And then for reference, here are the conditions. And most of these align with what was provided in your staff report, but we have added one for planning and zoning that any substantial alterations to the site plan, including alternatives to the relocation of 17 South M Street, such as a park, would be heard by the Hrpb as a major site plan amendment. And I can go through any of those particular conditions of approval as necessary if you'd like. And then we also have review comments from our other departments as necessary. So like I said, we have those previous COAs. Those conditions of approval would apply as well. Any proposed alterations or additions to the relocated structures at 17 South M would require your approval and submittal of a minor site plan amendment. Some general landscape conditions, water, sewer, and utilities, public works. And then one thing I did want to point out that has changed a little bit since your staff report as well. We do have a conflict with a existing utility pole on First Avenue South that would be essentially located where the garage entrance is. Electric Utilities is still working out how and where that pole is going to be relocated, but it does need to be moved in order to build the garage. So we have added the condition that Electric Utilities will coordinate the relocation of the pole and include it in a minor site plan approval. So here are the motions for the plan development, and that concludes my presentation. I will be available for questions, but maybe we should have the applicant presentation first.
Yes.
The record, Lance Lilly with Chen Moore. I'm also joined by members of my team, Mr. Santiago Cleaves, Mr. Brian Whitfield, and Mr. Bruno Phillips. And eloquently explained a lot of our requests, but I will go through this just for clarification sake of the applicants. So first thing first, this is for the South K Street Garage, which is located at First Avenue South. And K Street.
Sorry, I want to make sure we're sharing. Just in case it starts working again. We do want people to be able to see. Sorry, Lance, go ahead.
So, similar to Ann's presentation, my presentation is gonna have all three requests in one PowerPoint, just for sake of time. So first I'll kind of give you a background of how we came to this point. Then I'll do the two certificates of appropriateness, and then the mixed use plan development, and that will include the different entities that we're requesting. So this did start, the genesis of this started in 2018 with a study that was conducted by WGI. That essentially was like a needs assessment for what would require a parking garage or parking in downtown. Through that process, it was originally started in 2018, then it was amended essentially in 2020 as well as 2024. And in that process, they mentioned that the city needs a downtown parking. The request today starts off with, first off, the proposed development is in the downtown zoning district, as well as the downtown mixed use land use and the Old Town Historic District. It's approximately 0.77 acres or 0.8 if you include the alley that's adjacent to it. And these are the 5 parcels. I will touch further on about the 5 parcels, but essentially it's 5 parcels which will potentially be united later on through via unity title. And this is the current condition of the parking lot. As Ann mentioned earlier, this picture was taken. As you can tell, there is a lot of times that the parking it is completely full. And then this is just another picture taken of the same parking lot. And then there is a vacant parcel to the south of it, which has also been taken here just to show for reference. And for the entitlement process, we actually did have a neighborhood meeting with the community for the affected parties. That was conducted on April 13th, and that was done at the Compass Center over here down the road. And for today's sake, we are here at the Hrpb requesting approval of the 3 requests that we were asking for. The Hrpb does approve this, and this will move forward to the city commission for first and second reading. This is just photos just indicating our presentation at the Compass Center, where we did have various residents there, and various residents were able to provide us with their feedback. I believe the minutes are included in your packet, if I'm not mistaken, but that was what was conducted on April 13th. So first we'll start off with the certificate of appropriateness for the relocated buildings. As I mentioned, Ann did go over a lot of this, but I will speak through this if I can. So the request is to relocate 2 CRA owned buildings. Currently, well, no one currently recently relocated or vacated leisure services department buildings. These are the existing conditions of the buildings. As you can see, the image to the left is the actual house or main structure, and the image to the right is the garage. And then here just indicates the existing location on 17 South End and where it would be potentially relocated to that corner of First Avenue South and South K Street. As I mentioned, this is just the existing location of that particular where it would be relocated to. And Ann mentioned this, but I will touch on this. So there are 2 options for this. There is a connected building option, which essentially would provide additional space or what have you for whatever entity decides to go into those buildings. It also includes ADA ramp and accessibility for other members of the community. And this is just to show that relocated building with the potential addition. In red, you'll notice that that's the addition, which that would come back before this board for any architectural reviews or what have you. And then this is just the site plan indicating it without the connected buildings. So essentially we would relocate those buildings, they'd be placed on a foundation as mentioned, but you would still have the ADA ramp and whatnot to provide accessibility.
Sorry, sir, can you go back one? I understand the walkway, but what's above the garage?
That would be the connector building. If you look
Which,
here,
just as a reminder, we're not reviewing the architecture of that right now. That would come back to you.
correct. This is just to show the context of that it would be essentially a connected building at some point, if that was something that would the city or whatnot decide to.
Connecting the two relocated buildings or connecting the garage?
It would be connected to the relocated buildings. It's not connected to the garage. As you see here in the site plan, it's actually separated from the garage. Garage is taken away. And then, as I mentioned, this is just showing without the connected building. And then this is the architecture without the connected building as well. As mentioned, the proposal, it complies with the city's comprehensive plan, historic design guidelines, as well as the land development regulations for relocation. We are requesting approval for relocation of the building, from this board. And I thought it might be separated, so I put questions, but I'll move on to the next section. And this is for the new construction of the actual garage structure as a whole. I'll skip through this just because we're aware of the existing conditions. And this is the actual aerial map of where it would be located. As you notice that the red kind of cuts off because that other corner, the southeast corner, would essentially be for the relocated buildings. And this is just two versions of the site plan. It's the same, the garage is the same. It's just showing that there were two options. One option was for the relocated with the current connected building and one without. So it's the same site plan for the garage. And for the architecture, as Ann alluded to, there are two versions of the architecture for the garage as a whole. One of which is option one, which has a green wall and a mural. The mural would have to come back before this board for approval. The green wall, the reason why we have two options is essentially if, let's say, for example, there was any issues with budgeting or what have you, we wanted this board to be aware of what those two options would be. That way, there's no delays in the process or what have you. So we're showing the two options here to the board ahead of time. And then this is just from the north elevation as well, showing the same green wall as well as the mural. And then option two eliminates the green wall and the mural. So you will see that there's still some architectural breaks and architectural interest in the actual garage as we can prepare or design it. However, it does remove those green murals as well as our green trellises and murals as a whole. And this is the same thing from the north side. And like the relocation, we believe that we meet the comprehensive plan guidelines and policies, as well as the historic guidelines and the land development regulations. And lastly, we are requesting, as mentioned earlier, an urban plan mixed use development, which will encompass all the entities or components that I mentioned just previously. Here, we'll notice that you have the unity of title for the 5 parcels that I just mentioned, as well as the conditional use, the right-of-way abandonment, and the sustainable bonus and major site plan. So first, I'll touch on the unity of title. Those 5 parcels, so essentially we're trying to get those 5 parcels to be one complete entity or complete parcel so that we can construct the garage as well as relocate those buildings instead of them being 5 separate parcels as they are today. And then for the conditional use, under the downtown code, essentially mentions that parking structures or parking facilities such as a garage are conditional uses and require board level or review and approval. We believe that based on this particular code section, it mentions that as long as you meet the minimum lot size, which is the 20,000 square feet, which we do meet, as well as it is a parking facility, which garage is a parking facility, that we meet that code. And we did provide our explanations for why we met the conditional use section of the code. And then for the right-of-way abandonment, there is an alley to the west portion of the property that runs north-south. It is 5 feet of the 10 feet that's there. We'd like to abandon, and that would essentially be used for landscaping and additional things to allow for some buffering and setting back from the neighboring buildings that are there.
So there will be a 5-foot alley then?
Well, no, it's still gonna be a 10-foot alley, but we're just abandoning it. The use of the alley would still remain as it is. However, it's just gonna be abandoned for purposes of allowing additional space for the garage as a whole. So you'll still notice that, as you can see, right below the red area, there's still trees and what have you that's there, landscaping. But for sake of square footages and separation between the buildings, we did want to abandon that alley to allow for additional space for this particular garage.
We're just using it for site area.
Right.
So how close did that put you to the power wires?
to the power wires, the utilities.
You move the building into the alley, how close is that to Eastern Power?
So the building isn't getting closer to the alley. We're just, as our architect just mentioned, it actually is just to give us additional space for sake of the site. So as you notice, like when I mentioned or when I go through for the lot coverage and different things like that, that alley does contribute towards our overall coverages.
You got a minimum of 10 feet.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
So, you know, the
Correct.
building is gonna be set back from the alley.
It's a minimum, it meets the requirements for setbacks. That's correct.
So would the alley still support a vehicular traffic emergency vehicles? Utility vehicles?
So from a review standpoint, this was provided to the SPRT team. And realistically, any fire access or whatnot would be on the main thoroughfares. It wouldn't be used on the alley, is my understanding. However, with the utility department, we are still working through some nuances such as that relocated pole and whatnot. But the garage should not have any conflicts with utilities from our
We're not
understanding.
gonna try to either, we're not gonna interrupt you anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we could write down our comments and questions and save them for the end, that would be.
And then from a sustainable bonus standpoint, the code does allow a maximum of 30 feet. Our building is far exceeding the 30 feet. However, there are avenues that you can take, which would be the sustainable bonus that allow you to go higher. So we are taking advantage of the sustainable bonus program. And as mentioned in the previous presentation, there are on-site features and improvements that contribute towards the sustainable bonus. This particular development has two, which is the actual historic relocation of those two buildings built in 1941, and then also the public garage, which is the kind of the meat and potatoes of. And then here it just mentions the site plan, just showing the ingress, egress. It will be coming in off of First Avenue South. You'll have an ingress and egress, an in and an out. And then also there will be an out on the alley to the north where Lilo's is located.
Can you show where that is, please?
I don't know if I can closer, but this corner here, there's an alley up here
Mhm.
that you can exit, and there's two that you can go in and out. And then this part just shows the relocated buildings. If the option one, if the city decided they wanted to do the connection, or if the city decided, well, I'll just focus on option one. So this would be with the relocated building and the connection. This is the site data table, which Ann mentioned on her presentation. You'll notice that being that there are more asphalt and construction on that particular area, that there's more impermeability on here as well as lot coverage. So with that being said, when you go to fast forward to option two removes that asphalt or additional impervious area. So the numbers go down. So that's why you'll notice that on our requests, there's two different numbers for the waiver requests, because one has with the relocated building and the connection and one without. And then these I already mentioned, so I'll just kind of skip through, but these are just the second options without the mural. Option one did include the mural and the green. And then these are the renderings. This will show you from the north alley, or I should say, yeah, north alley side corner. And this will show you how the garage kind of looks from that perspective. And then this is from the southeast corner, which is where the relocated buildings would be. And then you still see kind of like the visual from that corner. And then this is from the southwest corner, just indicating how you enter the garage as a whole. And then also that alley, that 10-foot alley that we just discussed. There are 7 waivers that are requested. It was mentioned in the previous presentation, but I will go over them. One of them is to increase the allowable impervious area. That number does vary depending on which option the board decides that they'd like to partake in, whether it be the relocated building with the connection or without the connection, and that number does change. Option 2, or waiver 2, I should say, is to decrease the impervious area, being that of course, one option has more impervious compared to the pervious area. That's why you have that second waiver. Third waiver is essentially for the lot coverage. And that's just because it's a massive building and we need to have additional space for the lot coverage there. And then waiver 4 is for relief from the landscape requirements from the First Avenue South area to allow for, or K Street area, to allow for the combination of trees. Our team has done the best that we can to allow for some trees in that particular area, and if not, we have to shrink the building, and it kind of makes it difficult to put that together. Option 5 or waiver 5 is for transparency. Our team did provide the 2 different options. One of options is provides the architectural interest of the green wall. Without the green wall, we still provide an eyebrow to kind of make it feel more of like an archaic feel of covering, but then also breaks in the actual start of the wall, so it's not just blank walls. And then also waiver 6 is for waiver 6 and waiver 7 pretty much go together. They're more so because of the sustainable bonus that we're requesting for the additional height requires additional setbacks to kind of step back that building to provide a little bit more interest in the architecture. And that concludes our presentation. My team is here, as well as I know the city staff has presented their portion of the presentation. We are seeking requests for approval for the 3 applications that we just mentioned. We are here to take this resolution. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, we have questions then? Yeah. You have a budget on this? Well, first of all, are you guys the developers?
We are here on behalf of this. We're the owners rep for the city. So the city can't represent themselves. So we're here to represent the city from the developers. So the city's the property owner. We're here.
I don't say the property on the CRA property.
Correct.
Is it my phone?
Yes. Are there any other players besides the city and the CRA?
For the garage, no.
Yes. Yeah. They funded it 100%.
My understanding is completely funded by the city and the CRA.
It's city building.
Correct.
Yes. Definitely. You said something about the connection of the 2 buildings, so we can go that way. Relocation of the buildings. Yes, so you're going to, we can go for a connection of both buildings, and the building be connected.
Or not. I can't really hear you. Sorry.
Well, I'm leaning more for the connection and stuff, but
Play my phone.
I'm leaning more for the connection of the relocation of 2 buildings.
So for clarification, you're approving, in a sense, both site plan options. Like I said, the future connection would need to come back to you as far as architectural style. What we essentially are giving you 2 options for is flexibility as far as, because we're requesting waivers here, we don't want to have to come back to you and go through this process again if we do end up connecting those 2 buildings. So we're essentially forward-thinking planning by giving you the 2 options and saying, we could go in this direction, we could go in that direction. If we go in the direction of connecting them, you will see it from an architectural perspective. But as of right now, we don't have any finalized plans for that connection.
Okay, I understand. Moving on, so I get out of the way here. You talked about the after that, on the next phase, the applicant's gonna be, and is he gonna be the applicant that bring the next applicant forward, and this last of them?
For the connection?
Yeah.
I don't think we're far enough along to know who or how that would play out. It would be a city request, so we would probably need another owner's rep. I would guess you'd be seeing Lance again, but I don't want to speak for that because I don't think that any of us know yet.
I know you had middle leg landscape, civil engineer on the plans.
Correct.
I don't have a plan with me, but I went to the plans. Is it any way possible when you present your plans to the city to the commission and people look online and looking, can the landscaping be done? Can you present the civil part of the engineer, because the legwork does floods. We want to know the direction of where the water is going, what you're going to do to maintain the water, where you're going to put in wares, what you're going to use to maintain the water. the runoff.
So I will say, as part of the team, as you mentioned, Miller Leg was a part of the team and other consultants. And as part of the review, but similar to other developments that come before this board or even the commission. It is reviewed through internally with the city staff. The city staff provides that to whether it be Public Works or utility department, whoever, and they do provide their comments. That is why, I think it's in your staff report, if I'm not mistaken, that there are several comments and conditions of approval from each one of the entities. So that is something that.
All the comments on the plan, that's all on the plan. But you know, as we moving forward with this process, we getting down to the finish line. People should have the right to see what kind of landscape, what kind of trees they're gonna be looking at. And what kind of drainage issues, how the drainage is gonna be taken care of. All of it, a lot of people are interested in moving forward, how these issues are gonna be taken care of. Right now, I can understand these are only preliminary, what we're looking at right now, but moving towards the commissions, you should have a full set of plans ready to go.
Okay, like I mentioned, there were a full set of plans that were reviewed internally with the city staff to make sure that.
The landscaping plan, the civil plans,
Those things were provided to the.
are they online?
So,
That I can't speak. of.
Mr. DeVoe, like we discussed last month, your board is not reviewing civil or landscaping. That is something that our site plan review team.
I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for the people who's watching us tonight and the people who are concerned. Because they know Lake Worth floods and people, what they're gonna be looking out there outside their front door. They wanna see exactly what they're gonna be looking at.
And I would encourage you, when the final plans are submitted for building permit, you're welcome to do a public records request.
Before we request for people to review now. Should be ET submitted them.
You could do, you're welcome to do a public records request for those items now as well, that the site plan review team is looking at, if you'd like.
I have a follow-up question to Ed's, because in the staff packet, the stormwater department did say that they'd like a lot more information about the drainage, that it looks like they're currently putting all the drainage to the street catch basins. And have you started working on a plan for that? Even though it's not my purview to.
Yeah, I think, so again, we provide you with the site plan review team comments, so you know what we're looking at. When they are reviewing the site plan, I don't think anyone here. We don't have a representative from that department. I don't think anyone here can really speak to that, nor is it something that we should be speaking to. So if we can keep to the essentially plan development and architectural portions of this, and you're welcome to direct any questions about those items to those particular departments in the city, but I don't think anyone here is qualified to answer those questions fully.
Well, we have the architects here. I just am worried that with a plan, with a site project this large, that stormwater wanted them to address it, that if they can address it without making major changes to the site.
And if it requires major changes to the site plan, it would need to come back to you as a board.
We haven't seen the site plan yet. Still,
Yeah.
yet. We haven't seen the civil
No,
plan yet.
and you will not be reviewing a civil plan. Our utilities and water engineers will be reviewing that.
Well,
Can I ask a quick question that I'm sure I probably should know, but I don't? Is this parking garage public parking for anybody who wants to park here?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not attached to the resident, to the apartments or whatever else is going on.
This is a city-owned garage for the public.
Thank you.
I think.
Are we going around or?
Oh, I want to go back. I don't know if I cut off that.
Are we starting here with finishing? How about we going this way? Okay.
There you go.
You good? I can go after.
No, so just work our way down.
All right, I've got a few questions. Do we have a proposed use for the building that's being relocated? Now that Leisure Services has moved out of it, it's still gonna be a city building?
It is still gonna be a city CRA owned building. I don't know the exact use in the interim. I know that, as I mentioned, it is Leisure Services. My understanding is that Leisure Services would be potentially going back in there, but I don't know further discussions if there were, or if they've had been that related to that building.
And I think to piggyback off that, that's really a commission level decision. We have, again, similar to the flexibility that we're allowing in terms of site planning, we are also kind of building in an institutional use possibility here, as far as the parking for that structure. So we are essentially providing more parking than is needed if it does end up being still the leisure services office, if the city does decide to go in some sort of different direction. But I think the prevailing thought has always been that it will still be the leisure services department.
Um. Additionally, the landscaping waiver, and I know the city commission has mentioned how tough we are on the landscaping requirements that we ask for our citizens, and this is our residents as property owners, and this is a city project. And to offer a landscaping waiver on a city project, I really don't want to see that waiver without the green wall. Because I think the green wall is a great way to mitigate the landscaping, but I know we're very critical on our property owners about the landscaping. Now we're asking for a waiver. We got to make sure it's good for everybody. So how much of a difference is it to do the plan A, the plan B with and without the green wall? You said you were leaving that open for flexibility later in the budget process.
Correct, so. The city commission did approve a budget of, it was 9.7, 9.8 million, give or take. And through that process, of course, there's construction costs, there's design costs, there's different costs that are associated with that. What we're trying to attempt to do is to make sure that we're staying on top of the budget, so the budget doesn't exceed the promised number that all the residents have seen. So the reason why we're including that is because if there's any value engineering, meaning if you're going through the process and there's certain things that might exceed that potential budget, that we are coming to you forward thinking to provide something that might have to go or might have to be rebudgeted for or what have you. So that green wall was one of the amenities that would potentially have to be, if it was an issue, would have to come back or whatnot, but this is all for budgeting sake. That's why we're showing you both options.
Is it a real green wall? Like real live plants?
It is.
Is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to let you know that when we do get to the end here, I would be inclined to only give you the landscaping waiver with the green wall. Okay, because I think that's a great mitigating factor. You're asking for the waiver, but we're putting in the green wall.
And a reminder on the plan development application, you are only providing a recommendation of the city commission on those items.
So you can certainly include that in your motion.
And William Waters, Community Sustainability Director.
Yes.
I would also include in that recommendation that your preference, if it has to be value engineering, that the mural goes first and then secondary, look at the green wall, because it's serving a good purpose to mitigate the tree waiver that's being requested. You can take it under consideration, but based on what you're saying, that's the recommendation I would make for how to make your motion later.
Oh, thank you. That's it. Okay. Thank you all like.
Okay, so, my first question, has there been a traffic study?
Yes, a traffic study was conducted and provided to the city for review. It also was sent to Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County provides a TPS letter, traffic performance standards letter. And that was provided to the county, and the county provided that back to us, and we submitted that to the city, so that has been provided. So yes, traffic studies.
Is that enough packets?
I'm not sure what's in your packet, unfortunately.
That's not in our purview.
You can email it.
So when I'm looking at the new garage where it fronts on K Street, there's no parking there. Is that a fire lane? Why is that?
Yes, so throughout this process, as you know, this has been a pretty lengthy process. At one point, we were under the understanding that we might be able to use that for whether it be interaction with the street or additional parking or what have you that might be there. And through the review with the fire department mentioned that they essentially needed that location for whether it be staging of ambulance trucks, what have you. So that's why it has the no parking delineation there.
The question is that where some of those benches were in your rendering? In front of the. Where these.
Yeah, could use space.
Yes. Yes. It's in the grass area.
Yeah, you know, umbrellas there. So that is.
That's what the pop-up retail. where the
Yeah.
Umbrellas are.
Yes.
That's okay with the fire department.
It's not in the fire lane. It's on the actual property that's part of the.
Behind the sidewalk. Right, and
So I think it would be where there's gaps in those trees there.
Yes, I actually have one more question. The arrow on the right side of the screen, that's the pedestrian access to the garage.
Arrow, right? No, that's the exit. You're saying where the alley is?
Yeah, the vehicular exit,
Correct.
is to where the pedestrian access is into the garage. When I gotta go back to my car after I park, after I'm done. Go back to the plan.
The northeast corner. And the southeast. Corner.
Okay, that makes more sense. But, well, hold on, you have a parking spot in front of the. Is this the ground floor? No, this is the first floor. You have this one on it.
That's it.
Oh, on the ground floor.
That's also. That's in the game.
Yeah, I can flip to my.
now the. More of the plan, but these main circulation elevator is there. It's in support right here, right? Comes down, you can see the sidewalk of this to the right. Get you to the corner. So like go to the county. There's also an entry just to the left of that. There's also a stairwell in the far left.
So they're both of them are on the case. Case, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So the relocation, the building relocation. Now, if we approve the building relocation, is that in any way binding? Is it potential that someone is gonna come back to us and say, well, we we're gonna get so and so to pay for it, or is it entirely funded by the city? What's going on with that?
The application before you provides two different options for relocation. So it shows the connected and not connected. The applicant wants you to approve both options as part of the site plan. There is not an option right now before you for not relocating the building. If that becomes an option in the future, that would need to come back to you.
So that would be an issue, budget, right? That's a budget issue.
That would be a budget issue. If there's something wrong with the structures, if something happened.
Whatever the reason is,
Yeah.
that is, we don't know at this point, but that would come back to you.
This budget just a minute ago, honestly, and some things would be eliminated. And just curious, you know, right? Is my, I'm gonna.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, so the idea is that some of these projects could be scrapped so that we could save the structure of the building, because that's like, that the parking is the main priority at this point. Why are we fighting so hard to save these buildings? Was there somebody important who lived in there, something, substantial that we need to preserve these structures? And who's paying for it and how much is it gonna cost?
So they are contributing historic structures, like all of the contributing historic structures that you see, we typically don't allow them to be demolished. Whether or not someone important lived in them, they are. They are important based on their architectural significance, their age, their site context, I think you could look at the Florida master site files for the designation, but you as a board. Typically in your applications, we don't want to lose contributing structures, so this is an alternative to demolition of a contributing structure.
Sure.
Just a little history, the W Motor project, for the beginning of the W Motor project. everything that was presented was contingent upon those structures being moved. So that's always been part of the plan, to have those structures saved, because they're historic structures, we don't want to lose them.
in good shape.
Yeah, they were renovated fairly recently, so. We just want to.
But, I mean, there's been some projects in the past, not necessarily here or wherever, where that was on the list of things that everyone was hoping for, but eventually went by the wayside for either budget purposes or whatever. Sure.
And I think we've provided, and that's why we've provided the options to you, just as a heads up, this might be value engineered. If the relocation is value engineered, I don't think that that's something that wouldn't come back before you.
Correct.
Are we, so I believe that we're not in a flood zone, is that correct?
Correct.
That's all I have for now.
Alright, before you go, then I'm just gonna make a comment.
Oh, please.
You know you'll be- Oh, sorry. I guess I just wanna make a statement in relation to what you're saying, is that the mural and the green wall are important to me. So it sort of bothers me that that's the first thing on the list.
Not often.
Well-
It would be the first thing to go.
Well, right.
And that's.
I mean,
up to them.
If I might correct, the design team has identified some things on the interior of the garage that would not affect its exterior appearance. To be the first items looked at in terms of value engineering, the green wall and the mural would be the last things looked at, as I understand it.
And the reason why those were shown is because the interior items that would be potentially valued engineered would not affect for this board's consideration. So we're just showing the things that would be something within the purview or the consideration from this.
Okay, I have a question. We've been working on this for 2 years and we're talking about $9.8 million and we're not sure if we have to start value engineering when we get halfway through. I know how construction projects work, but that was my question.
The way the agreement is set up is that it's a not to exceed guaranteed maximum price. And you don't know what the actual guaranteed maximum price is going to be until you're at permitting. And we are in design development and it's being calculated what the cost is at every step. PG&L has been a very good job of trying to keep us within budget, and as far as we are aware, we're still within budget, but we still have 3 steps to go. And I'm sure there are world events that might impact that.
But no, and I know that. Here we go.
Well, my questions may generate other questions, so.
Sure.
I could entertain those.
I hope they do.
Good evening, Lance. Well, my notes were broken up into the relocation issues and then the garage issues, so I guess I'll start with the relocation issues. How are the buildings physically being moved? Will it be moved whole or in pieces? What is potential damage to the buildings, none or minimal? How will it be managed or guaranteed? Who is doing the moving? What company? Do they have experience in moving historic buildings? And have the buildings been evaluated by a structural engineer to certify they can move safely? That's 6 questions in one.
So we are in the process still working with the team to determine who the exact mover would be. The intent is to keep everything as a whole, not to I guess impede upon or mess up with anything with the integrity. So that is being done. There are further discussions that would come after, as Mr. Waters mentioned. We're not at the stage to know all of the answers, unfortunately. But that is the intent, that if this is to be moved, that it be moved as a whole and indicated but on foundation intact.
Okay, thank you. The question about whether leisure services are gonna stay there or not, I guess that's up in the air, so I'll skip that. Guideline H, I would recommend the applicant provide before and after photos of all sides of the buildings and the elevations. It just says before. I would recommend before and after photos, just to document that the buildings are moved satisfactorily. When is relocation due to proceed? I think it's in there soon, maybe August, or if it's approved.
Is there a schedule?
Yeah, I think August is a good time frame, but the schedule kind of moving as.
Correct. so the schedule has fluctuated depending on trying to move or trying to attend certain meetings and what have you, so that's kind of shifted particular, I guess, timelines that we had before. But from our understanding, it was approximately August was the timeframe for the.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we're gonna talk about this or not, the proposed connection of the structures, how would that affect the historic elements of the buildings? Maybe we're not saying that tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you're really only entertaining it as a fail-safe, so as to not go through the plan development process again. When it does come back before you, the actual connection, how it's connected, how it looks, the architecture, all of that you will be reviewing at that time. It just, in the interest of not doing this all over again, when we do that, we figured, let's save everyone's time. It would come back as a COA for additions and alterations.
Sure, I understand, thank you. Regarding condition 5, consideration of raising the height of the buildings, flexibility in foundation design. Are there also flood mitigation considerations in this? I understand it's not in the floodplain, but is that being considered? So there's some of the same issues around runoff and flooding and things of that nature.
My understanding, so the reason why that condition was added was because the existing garage structure that's over on 17 South End is already on a particular type of foundation. So that condition was added so we can make sure that either it's placed on if a foundation that's the same size or higher or lower, whatever, that was met. The intent, of course, is to make sure that there is minimal ponding or anything like that. That would be, and that's why we have the civil plans and whatnot to make sure that the stormwater issues are addressed.
And Ms. Devlin, what we're trying to move the 17 South End main building with its existing foundation. And so it may, when it's brought over, and it'll probably be like what looks like railroad ties or I-beams, it may have to be set down on a stem wall foundation a little higher than it is now.
That would be good. All right, thank you.
And if you're interested in the relocation process, I have photos I can send you of how other buildings have been done, so.
That's great, thank you. Yeah.
Pick them up and you move.
Well,
In Vermont.
overly
in
simplified, but
Vermont,
yeah.
they moved a covered bridge one time. I
Yeah.
watched that. It was really interesting. I don't know, this is not a question, more of a recommendation. I would recommend that a sign be placed at the relocated structures regarding the relocation. I think it's been historically significant to the city. So I'd make that recommendation, not official recommendation, but just personal recommendation. So now on to the garage. I just want to say that the impact of the garage on this neighborhood and the historic district must be recognized. It says under number 11, on page 5 of my packet here. The proposed new structure is somewhat more tall than the surrounding structures in this area. I will say it's much more than somewhat taller. It's a lot taller. 2.5 times taller than the buildings around there. And you know, there's an impact on the neighborhood. I just want to have somebody say that tonight. And the residents of the neighborhood have a lot of thoughts and feelings about that. So somebody should say that. Maybe under public comment it'll be said. Can we talk about the landscape buffers in the Chenmore report that's being proposed? It seems conflicting to me. In some parts it says, yes, we're gonna have landscape buffers, we're gonna have great landscaping. In other places like, well, no, we're asking for landscaping waivers. So it seems like confusing to me.
And that's part of the waiver is there are landscape buffers, but there are certain areas that we cannot meet the landscape buffers to the extent of what the code requires. So that's why we did request landscape waiver for that particular area. However, we believe that through the design team that we've put as much landscape as we can to mitigate this, as well as to make sure that we meet the applicable codes just from our just regulatory standpoint.
Can you
Where's
update?
the place of, where is it not?
K Street.
K Street.
K Street, because you got the skinny.
Also like to add, this goes back almost a year and a half, but the city commission, in discussions with the potential designers at the time, wanted to ensure or try to have as little impact or reduced impact as possible. So the original study with WGI had the entrance to the garage off of K Street, which would have led to the tallest part of the garage being closest to the neighborhood. And also K Street is only one direction. So to have a lesser intense impact, the commission, I think it was last July or last June directed that they wanted the ramp and entrance to be off first, which has two-way access. And also that resulted in the tallest part of the garage being closest to Lake Avenue and the shortest part of the garage being closest to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Can you talk a little about what about the green screen, the green wall, what materials will be used, and wall mounted trellis materials used on that, please?
I will defer to our architect, Mr. Brendan Forbes.
All right.
So the green screen wall is basically, it's a powder coated metal mesh, three-dimensional. So it's kind of like a lattice design.
It's metal.
Yes, it's metal.
Okay.
Like
Like
a
a lattice?
powder coat finish on it.
Like a lattice?
Yes, and so yes, it's like a lattice. So it allows the plants to be able to move through it and grow up. And stay secure onto it. It's not just stuck on the wall or like that.
Do the plants exist now?
Excuse me?
Do the plants for that, does it exist now? The landscaping plan, does it exist right now? Do you submit that to the?
Yes,
city?
the plan,
yes,
does
yes.
the plan exist?
The answer is yes, it's on the landscaping plans now.
Yes.
Right.
This is my point. It should be online, so people can review it, so people can see it, and you know, now we have transparency. You know, it's just. This is where I'm going with this, so, when you submit these plans to the city. When you submit these plans to the city, to the city commissioner. You're gonna submit a full scale detail of civil, landscaping, architectural, electronic.
Mr. DeVoe, they will submit what is required for them to submit, and staff will present to the commission.
People online should be looking at this tonight.
Does it require irrigation?
Yes, it will, and the plants are actually at grade,
Oh, okay.
so they'll crawl up the trellis. Right?
Who will be responsible for maintaining that?
That was gonna be my follow-up question too.
Because sometimes, I mean, they start out really nice and then they look crap.
Actually, the plantings that we're using are very aggressive and they're very sustainable. We've used a similar plant on a project at FIU. I could share pictures with that.
No, I've seen your architectural drawings, I'm very happy with it, well done. I'm just a little bit upset, we don't have the landscaping, the silver drawing. And online, so people can take a look at what we're talking about tonight. No excuse for it. All right.
Or is the cost of the landscaping maintenance for the green wall included in the ongoing maintenance costs proposed projections?
That's really not in your purview, guys. Let's focus on the application, please. You are sitting here in a quasi judicial role for the relocation and the new construction COAs. You need to make sure that you're,
All respect, this is a big project.
I understand
People
that.
online are looking tonight, people want to be transparent, they got a lot of anxiety out here.
I
about this
understand
project.
that.
So how can you say, focus on just this, we focus on the great picture.
Your app.
That's what we're here for, though. We have to focus.
You have to focus, these two applications, the two certificates of appropriateness are quasi judicial for you. So you need to be basing your decision solely on what you are hearing today at the hearing, not anything that you have heard in the community up until this point. The recommendation on the ordinance is a separate thing. That is a recommendation to the commission. That is a separate type of decision making. So that's why I'm stepping in now to make sure we're staying in our decision with our correct decision making hats for each portion of it.
I do have some more questions.
Go ahead.
Can I?
We know, we gotta be here all night. Go ahead.
So on, I think it's page 19 of the packet, criteria for parking lots 23.2-31H. Talks a lot about, as pleasant as park-like an atmosphere as possible, talks about trees. Also consideration to sculpture, fountains, gardens, pools and benches. I don't see any of those design, features. Is that a space consideration or not thought to not be valued? It just doesn't look very park-like.
I'm not sure which page you're.
Criteria for parking lots 23.2-31H. On page 19.
There is a distinction made between a surface parking lot and a parking garage. Surface parking lots are required to have landscape islands. They have to have a landscape meeting every 10 spaces. There's also landscape requirements between spaces that are facing each other. So the design of a parking lot surface will be considerably different than a parking garage. Because we're not planning to put landscaping inside the parking garage.
Okay. I guess I just had some other questions which may or may not be relevant based on, you know, what our direction here, but in terms of, says that the 72 cars in and out during the week and 112 cars in and out during the weekend is not anticipated to impact the area with traffic noise and air pollution. I find that interesting, but also ask about the lighting that says that the lighting is sufficient, provide sufficient lighting, but also not to disturb the neighborhood. Can you address that briefly? Exterior lighting?
Yeah, so
And that is one of your conditions of approval that's recommended.
we're making sure that we meet the code on light spillage, we have garage, the intermediate areas. And also, we also have parapet walls, scratch walls around the perimeter, so nobody sees headlights. For example, the apartment next door, you cannot get headlights going into somebody's room.
Okay, thank you. Is this gonna be 24-hour availability or? I know it said the hours be determined, but
I was just gonna answer that hours would be determined, that's a discussion that the city would have to have internally to.
that hasn't been decided yet.
That's my understanding.
Okay. I think that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Back to the green wall, and if we're gonna say that that's a major architectural aspect of this building. And I have a hard time saying it's not my purview to ask her that, but and it's not going.
You can ask about it and you're making a recommendation on it, but specific choices as far as, you know, irrigation, you know, the methods of irrigation, the plants chosen, things like that, that's included in the landscape review. But is not something that you as a board are voting on. You can absolutely make a recommendation to the city commission that says the incorporation of the green wall feature and or the mural feature is very important to you as a board and you would not like to see that eliminated. You would like to see that only as a last ditch measure or something along those lines. You know, similar to how you've provided other recommendations to the city commission, you can certainly make your you know, priorities as far as the application part of that motion.
And
Okay.
you all don't really weigh in on budgets and ongoing maintenance. Those are things that the property owner is responsible for and they will handle those as they need to, just like in any other application that you see.
Well, because you normally tell us not to worry about landscaping, because landscaping can change, but if it's a major architectural aspect of this building. We gotta,
It is a little bit different in this instance in that A, it's part of a major site plan approval and also that, yes, it is incorporated in the building. So I do think that the idea that landscaping is still something that you shouldn't be taking into account as far as architecture, you know, as beautiful as this green wall may be today, you know, 10 years from now, maybe the plants are doing so well or something like that, and it's not blocking it. So let's, you know, I would say
I mean,
not
just like.
live or die by the green wall, I would say.
Well, just like in the mural code, that we require the property owner of a property that is mural to have it upkept.
Yeah.
I'd say the green wall is a sculpture and there should be some sort of plan, whatever it is.
We
that's
don't,
Decided by the property owner.
Could we go back to the slide of the green walls and?
I mean, this is part of a building. It's not like it's a
Yeah.
tree on the
We don't
side.
do-
This is a design feature of the building. I think it's appropriate. We're concerned about that.
I don't care how it's done, I just wanna make sure that's being accounted for and recognize that this is something that's gonna be an ongoing.
and other cities, I believe, do ongoing maintenance agreements as far as landscaping and even, I guess, tracking and holding people to that can be very difficult. I know that's not something I believe that we do as a department. So it's not really something we have a mechanism to do or require.
The city's code currently does have requirements for maintenance of landscaping that's required as part of your site plan. So if this is a landscaping feature that's required as part of the site plan, it would fall under those maintenance requirements that are in the code. And so there would be code compliance if they don't.
You see, it's the major.
But nothing above and beyond that. So, you know, you can hold them to what's in the code.
want to make sure it's being maintained and that there's a plan to maintain it.
All right.
Absolutely, and that's a general requirement of the landscape code.
Oh, you know, we're talking about landscaping. We're talking about landscaping, but we're not supposed to talk about landscaping. We're talking about this, you're not supposed, the bits and pieces doesn't add up. So let's move on to something else.
Okay.
And did you say that you're gonna go over the conditions of approval from ordinance 2026 05? Did you mention that?
Yeah, so that was the
See that?
plan development conditions of approval that are included in your packet and were in the slides. I can switch to my presentation if there's any particular ones you have questions about.
You know approximately where it is in the packet?
My packet is split up, so I can't give you an exact page number that you would have. We would be looking at the staff report for ordinance 2026 05, and it is
Page 12.
You have the picture?
yes, starting on page 12. So conclusions and conditions,
Yeah, they are.
it should be up in the top right-hand corner. So the recommendations of conditions of approval start at the top of page 12. So planning and zoning, historic preservation, landscape, water, sewer, utilities, public works.
The top right hand corner says ordinance 2026 05,
Okay.
and then the page number.
The page 12 of the ordinance.
Yes. Or of the staff report for the ordinance.
Of the staff reports of it.
You have a pen, you know where that is?
So yes, I guess you also have the draft ordinance that was provided to you. That's located on page 8 of that particular item under Exhibit C.
Notice that ordinance that we.
So so page 8 of the ordinance is page
Did you have to go to the ordinance or did you just access the draft? Yeah.
95 of the package. Now we're on the same page.
It's not all summer.
Great, thank you.
Now we're on page. Questions? Fine, okay, I'm good for that.
All right, we're gonna start. No, that's what I thought we were waiting for.
Right.
Okay.
No, I just
I
just wanna see where it was, because if we're approving something, I wanna see what we're.
Or are you reading yourself or are you, want me to read it or no, I'm gonna.
Hello, my name is David Sims. I live at 715 North L Street. A few things. Mr. Devereaux asked about other players. I've been to some of the meetings. From what I understand, W Moda is paying $1 million for this garage and financing part of it. Another Ms. DeRiso asked if it's a public garage, which it is, but my understanding from just attending meetings was that some of the spaces in the garage are going to be dedicated to the museum, so that would mean that they would not be available for the public. The presentation mentioned one of the requirements was the public meeting that they had on April 13th, which I was at. The presenter didn't mention that the public, everybody got up and they were overwhelmingly opposed to this project. They were overwhelmingly opposed. They were overwhelmingly opposed to this garage. This garage, again, it's gonna be 56 feet, which is above the 30 feet minimum. There's gonna be some kind of a waiver, but this 56-foot garage, with its breadth, is humongous. It dwarfs everything in the area. This is a historic area of downtown Lake Worth. it's one of the few historic areas left in South Florida. I mean, a lot of historic South Florida is being whittled away. And this is just gonna level it. This is really detrimental to the historic character of downtown Lake Worth, and I would really ask each member of the board to move to disapprove. Thank you.
Take a look at the map here. And basically, this map is what's happened at the time.
Would you wait here at the microphone, please?
Yeah, I think you're out of order, because this all should have been submitted up prior to the meeting.
I did.
It was.
I submitted. They just don't distribute the damn stuff, that's the problem. It's like a.
I'm not taking anything, sir.
I don't feel.
Okay.
We
I'm
need
just
to know
gonna-
who you are, first of all, sir.
I'm Alex Schultz. So basically, what that map shows over the past 10 to 15 years, what has happened is the CRA has. And the city and the preservation department, they've torn down all these structures. There's basically 14 contributing structures that were torn down, 5 other old structures. Yes, they quietly tore everything down, so they've already demolished quite a bit of that area. And everybody, the state of Florida has what's called a compliance and review section. Take a look on the first page. There's a list of emails. What you really should do is ask the compliance and review section of the historic preservation section to take a look at and do a compliance review. And then give their recommendations and input back to you, the board here. That's one thing the city never does. They avoid the state's compliance and review section to determine if it's in compliance with the codes and stuff like that related to historic preservation. That's how they put all these things through and do all this destruction. Just take a look at that map there. And what I think you should do is ask the state first before you vote. And I'll give you a complaint, and their emails there, you can contact them yourself. And you talk about flooding, take a look at Lake Avenue. On the south side of Lake Avenue, between Dixie and Federal, there are portions of Lake Avenue that are actually higher than the sidewalk, adjacent to the entrance of many of the businesses. I live down here, I see the flooding that goes on at that corner. You take a look, Sacred had a town hall 3 months ago. He says, just take a look, if you see a manhole cover and there's a collapse adjacent to it, you know that source collapsing. Those sores right near there at First Avenue South and K Street. It's starting, there, you can see the collapse as it is. We have so many flooding problems. That what you need is a storm source study and you need a sanitary source study before you move forward. And in terms of, you got all these old homes here. I don't know if you remember about Maui burning down with the firestorm. So you're putting in all these big structures and getting all these fire safety waivers, putting this big 4-story building right next to that 2-story apartment building. We get a fire between Wamoto waivers and the parking garage closeness. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised sometimes we don't see like a firestorm. And then when the city published in the Florida Administrative Register a notice about this K Street garage, they said there were 4 historic structures that were to be located. Where's the other 2 structures that are going to be located? Now, I have public records requested, and I submitted all the stuff to you guys. I don't know if they distributed stuff to you, but you need to take a look at that map. But all those places were destroyed, and nobody knows about them. Thank you.
Understand. Mr. Rick? These sources increase, so.
Good evening, Greg Richter, 1202 South Palmway. First of all, Bob, welcome back. Good to see you back here. And it's great to come to a meeting like this and see everybody here tonight. I really appreciate you all doing this. I'm here, I'm in favor of this parking garage. I think we've spent the city has spent a lot of time working it and trying to work it into the historic neighborhood there. They have, as they heard, they've leveled it down And they didn't go all the way to K Street with this, all the way to First Avenue. They're leaving a gap, to push it back from the neighborhood and actually put in a historic structure in front of it. To make it, fit within there. I have talked to every business owner on Lake and Lucerne, and all of them are begging for this garage. They want this garage. We need it. If you go downtown on a weekend, it's really tough to find a place to park. And this resolves a lot of answers. There are no 50 spaces set aside for W Moda. There are no leasebacks for W Moda. That was incorrect, what I heard here earlier. So these spaces are here. So just, does it work or doesn't it work within the historic structure? That's what you need to decide tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Commissioner, I think is next. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all for your service to the city. You have an important role. Christopher McVoy, Dr. Christopher McVoy, 1514 15th Avenue North. I would just remind you the name of this board, Historic Resources Preservation Board. You're not here as the Economic Development Board. You're not here as the parking fix-it board. You're not here as a lot of things. You're here as Historic Resources Preservation. You're being asked to provide a certificate of appropriateness. Is this appropriate in the context of historic preservation? That's what you're being asked to say. Yep, we give it our stamp of approval that it's appropriate in historically. I would remind you that right from this podium, we've had multiple times the director of Palm Beach County's Tourism Board, and I may have the exact names wrong, but the director, I've asked him multiple times, and he has publicly stated, yes, of course, your historic downtown is a critical, central part of the appeal of Lake Worth Beach. We are one of the oldest communities here. We erode that historic downtown, we're eroding our competitive advantage with other cities. So weigh that heavily when you consider approving this or not. You've been given by staff an account that this kind of meets the historic, this parking garage, yeah, it's not historic, it's not an old one, but it kind of is sort of historic because we use some materials that are kind of like it. In the popular vernacular, I believe the term is BS. It's pretty hard to argue that a building that is much taller than everything else, that as you heard from others, was vehemently opposed in the last public meeting on it. 2 people said they were in favor of it, and a whole raft of people said they weren't. It's unclear whether we really need a parking garage. It was, the previous speaker mentioned that business owners want a parking garage. That's because we asked them the wrong way. If you ask them the question, do you want paid parking downtown? They all absolutely say no. You can't make this garage work if you have free parking downtown. The Bahamian already tells us that. We have an empty parking garage there. If you approve this, you're going in the direction of paid parking downtown, which business owners vehemently do not want. So you've been, my specific suggestions are vote no on the thing. And if you put any conditions, don't make them recommendations, make them conditions. That these historic buildings must be moved in order for this to have a certificate of appropriateness. That the green wall must be part of it for this to have a certificate of appropriateness. Make those conditions. And you've been told that, hey, drainage, that's not really your purview. It doesn't take a lot of expertise, you all have it, to know that if you make an area this size impervious, you are going to increase the flooding problems downtown. You all know that sea level rise is increasing. You may not know that the commission with the water person has been discussing this as a big deal. So you're putting the other historic buildings at risk with no drainage plan.
Yeah, come on.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. One, I don't think you should feel any pressure from a commissioner telling you how you should form your motion or anything else. He can speak here on his own opinion, but to come here and present his opinions as a commissioner doesn't let the other 5 people on the commission come here and say to you, have the same option. I think he's right. You are the Historic Resources Preservation Board. So you need, as the attorney has said to you, keep your focus on what your goal is. A lot of the buildings that were destroyed could not be repaired without major investment by the city, to the tune of more than the homes were worth. They were offered to people to relocate. They didn't have any takers on that. This has been going on for a long time. I have spoken to the people regarding WMODA and what they want, and whether there are designated spots in this garage where only a person going to WMODA can park. And the answer from that person who has come before this commission, this city repeatedly, was no. They could have paid the city parking in lieu fees. I believe Mr. Warder can explain that to you, which is what they're doing with the $1 million. That $1 million covers a cost of those, but they could have been parking in another surface parking lot. It's paying for parking spaces in lieu of. Many other developers have done the same thing in this city. We have to understand also that the Bohemian Garage is not a City of Lake Worth Beach garage. I know people like to say, well, the Bohemian Garage, we don't own that. A previous commission and city manager made an obligation. But that doesn't make it a city property. So that's another thing that needs to be remembered as you go through this. I just think there are things that have been conveyed that are not necessarily accurate, and I felt I needed to come up here and say to you what I understand, having said in every one of these meetings what I've heard out of the horse's mouth. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I want to ask a quick question. Is the parking garage going to be paid parking?
There is no program for the parking garage and how it will operate yet, and that's also not before you. It is the yes or no question, but the answer is that it has not yet been decided.
Okay.
There's places in the packet that says it is not, currently not due to be a paid parking lot, but, you know, who knows in the future.
Got a question for you. Our board entertains, our board of affairs. We have not given, we have held firm against height waivers. Now, I'm saying this because this is what we've been practicing for the longest. All right. Now, if we remove one floor, that still give us it gives you 3 floors plus parking or a parking upstairs. So that's 4 decks. And that reduce the floor to the height to 33 feet.
That's the law. Are we
That would still require a height waiver to get to 33 feet.
Hold on, it's not a waiver. Let me interrupt. I wrote the quote. It is not a waiver. We have a sustainable bonus incentive program, tier 1 and tier 2. Any building in Lake Worth Beach that is more than 30 feet tall or more than 2 stories must participate in the sustainable bonus program to get that height. The tier 1 gets you from 30 feet to the maximum in downtown of 45. Tier 2 is facilitation through the plan development process to get 25% higher than that, which allows you to get to 56 1/4 feet.
Yeah, I got
It is not a waiver. It is actually essentially if you meet the conditions of the sustainable bonus, is almost a by right provision because you are actually paying the city a portion of the requirement value, and the other requirement value must be incorporated in the project itself. And in this case, one of the sustainable bonus things called out specifically in the LDRs is the provision of a public parking garage, and another component is doing a historic preservation project.
But with all due respect, when we saw the graph, I mean, my eyes could be full. Okay. And I figured, I think we're going down, the city's gonna get zero.
The city can choose not to pay itself a sustainable bonus payment. The city is the applicant.
No, I think what he showed tonight is zero. That's because it was 500 some thousand, plus he met the waiver, but reduced it to 200 some thousand. Then when you add the rest of it, it comes to zero. Take a look at it.
Yeah, Chen Moore.
I mean.
The applicant is Chenmore on behalf of the city of Lake Rose Beach. Correct. If you would like the city to pay itself $258,000, you can make that recommendation as part of one of your conditions.
Has to go in order, but it's kind of, I think it's good.
Yes.
So do you want me to move to the various recommendations and condition?
Are we allowed to make a comment before then?
Yeah, sure.
We live in a lovely city, in a lovely downtown, and it would be nice if we didn't have to make any changes. But I think in order to support our businesses here, we need to keep that in mind and not just say, all we're doing is historic here. We need to keep our city alive. And I think parking garage is really important for that.
I'm gonna make a comment too. Because, I mean, just to me, I am gonna look at this strictly from the point of view of historic preservation. And I think the fact that it's a parking garage does not relieve us from the compatibility of the scale, height, and massing with the surrounding area.
So we want to discuss that?
So what do you, what would you say then?
So,
Well, if you want to talk about that.
no, I would do more, I would
Well, we
discuss.
can make a motion, a discussion, and then we can vote.
We would be here all night. That's fine with
That's
me.
why I'm pushing it along.
You guys are in quasi judicial session, so now would be the time to discuss amongst yourselves if you're going to.
Cause I'm leaning, I mean, I want the parking garage. Don't get me wrong, but I wanna do the right thing. Where we can still stay within the historical value and whether they get accreditation or not, that's beside the point. But the height is nothing, we have always not wavered on the height. So I think we should stay within the historical district, 33 feet. And let the work and make the garage work within those guidelines.
Yeah, but how many parking spaces are you? gonna
It
get
doesn't
at?
matter, they get 150, I saw 250 on the plan today. If they only get 150, so be it. But I think you're gonna get right around 180.
Well, I think the issue is the value of decreasing spaces vis-a-vis how many more spaces that the city is going to gain versus what's currently in existence. So you start taking things down, then what's the value of spending, $8, $9, $10 million
You gotta,
to gain, 40 spaces, theoretically, just,
I'm glad you brought that up. Who's to say what the budget's gonna be? We might be pushing them right to what the budget, where it should be. They only have so much money.
those are two separate issues, but.
In historic preservation, this garage is gonna be Mr. Waters, similar height to the Lucerne.
It's actually gonna be about 8 to 8.5 feet shorter.
Yes, that's what I thought. If we're trying to preserve the historic district downtown as a functioning downtown, we need businesses to move in and there has to be parking. That's how we're preserving the historic district. There needs to be parking so that the businesses can thrive on Lake Ave and Lucerne. And they got, and the patrons need somewhere to park.
And that
I-
argument is actually in our comprehensive plan as well as the arts and culture master.
And I didn't even read that.
I get that,
I don't,
I get that.
I'm not in love with this.
Yeah, but I get that, I get that. But the trouble is, well, I won't even say it's problematic, but we should stay within the guidelines.
Look, are we not staying within the guidelines if we have the incentives for the increase of height already built in our LDRs? They're there.
Without the incentive. That's where we're going with it, without the incentive.
Why not? We have the
Why not?
incentive.
We have, every municipality has some sort of incentive.
Mr. DeVoe, you make all the time the argument that we have these rules for a reason, that we shouldn't wait from them. Now you're saying.
No, I wait a minute, hold on.
We shouldn't allow for them.
You understand? I mean to apply the rules where the rules state, but the thing about it is. There are times where we have to still apply the historical values of our city. Remember, we pushed to First Avenue. What's gonna be next? Second. So. Let's, if this building was on Lake Avenue or Lucerne, no, let's do it. We're in the way, we're right to First Avenue. You understand? So let's stay with the heights, let's make it work. Maybe they may have 50-50 parking space short, so be it.
So Mr. DeVoe, you're proposing that the board consider not approving the sustainable bonus incentive program request.
That's right. Ed? What?
Somebody gonna
So-
make a,
Well, so that portion of your decision making is a recommendation to the commission under the ordinance. So if we can start with the application, the motions are on the screen for the relocation.
Well, we have to do it in order, so.
Yes.
Can I ask one question first? If theoretically, we were to disapprove the motion for the garage, what would happen?
What?
If I made a motion to disapprove the parking garage,
To
You know
disapprove
what?
what?
well, I'm just
You
asking a
have
question.
three applications and you have
No,
You have three applications in front of you.
You're talking about taking out a level of the parking garage, so where are you going with that?
So are you saying disapproving the new construction request for the
I'm
parking
asking a
garage?
hypothetical question, yeah.
Well, under your hypothetical, you know, if you were to disapprove the relocation, I think it would be fairly obvious which portion of it
I'm
you
not
would.
talking about the relocation.
Yeah, so, but as an example. We have a relocation application, we have a new construction application, and then we have a recommendation for an ordinance. Would you be saying that you would be hypothetically, and I know that we're discussing this as a hypothetical, not a, but. Hypothetically, you would be moving to disapprove the new construction portion and or recommend not to recommend to the city commission the plan development portion. Yeah, this is a clarifying question essentially.
I'm not sure I understand your clarifying question.
What are you proposing in your hypothetical would not be approved? The new construction.
The new
or
construction.
ordinance? If you. Do not approve, if you disapprove the new construction, then the applicant can appeal your decision to the city commission.
Could.
Just go right on.
Or they could substantially change it and bring it back up.
Yes.
Could we approve it? At a lower height? I don't want this project killed.
I think for the new construction. That would be very difficult to condition. You essentially either need to approve with conditions or deny. Approve is fairly straightforward. Approve with conditions, I think we have certain levels of latitude where we can approve an application. And you can say, like we usually do for board hearings, well, we're changing, X amount of height or, Y, architectural feature. Removing multiple levels of a garage really does constitute such a substantial change to the architecture of it that it's not something I, as staff, would be comfortable taking as a condition, because that would turn into, pursuant to staff's approval of a 3-level parking garage, which I'm certainly not comfortable reviewing. So really, you would in that instance be looking at a denial.
That I haven't thought of, no.
Well, right now it's at 4.5 levels, so. Again. You can't even say, well, we'd cut it off at.
And keep in mind, the half level is on the north end of the parking garage closest to Lake Avenue. If you remove that half a level, the 4-story impact that you've been describing as being objectionable is still there, closest to the neighborhood to the south.
I have
That was the relocation first, correct?
I move to approve HRPB project 26-001-00063 for a certificate of appropriateness for the relocation of 2 historic structures from 17 South End to 704 First Avenue South with staff recommended conditions of approval based on the competent substantial evidence in the staff report pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements. That's
Yes, there's a
Moving
little bit
on.
of language about an preferred location.
I second.
You want to connect, what the next year?
That's,
No, we're not talking about.
that's gonna be in a year or two.
Yeah, so we have a first, we have a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Did it pass unanimously?
Yes, I guess I think.
All right.
One down.
Now we
Back
move-
one more.
Now we move the building.
Okay.
Down to the next.
I move to approve HRPB project number 96-001-00008 with staff recommended conditions and the additional condition that the green wall stay in place and the mural stay in place in order for the landscaping waiver.
Height.
This does not include a landscaping waiver
With the landscaping waiver
in the ordinance.
in the ordinance. Oh, that's the next one. Okay,
No, but they-
let me start over again.
I don't think you necessarily have to start over. I believe in watching the consensus of faces, your desire, whether there was a landscape waiver or not, you want the living wall and the mural.
So I would just say only approving option 1. Which is the one that includes the mural and the green wall.
So that's a condition.
Yes, the third condition would be, the board is approving option 1, the board is not approving option 2 for new construction.
Oh, okay. All right. I move to approve HRPB project 26-001-00008 with staff recommended conditions of approval for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a new 4.5-story parking garage at approximately 25 South K Street. Based on the competent substantial evidence in the staff report pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirement.
With staff recommended conditions of approval, okay.
The other one.
What, so. No
So-
condition on the wall or mural on this brief, because you can add them if you want
I want to add it to
to the next
waiver.
one.
because our commission is very critical about waivers.
Now, just,
I think for consistency, if the
I'll add it
landscape
both.
wall, it needs to be in both.
Okay.
let's have it.
If you really want it.
So we got a motion with the wall.
This one's fine.
I withdraw.
Okay, go ahead.
I move to approve HRPD project 26-001-00008 with staff recommending conditions of approval for certificate of appropriateness and the additional condition that the option
You can just say that the green wall and the.
and the green wall and the mural remain. For the construction of a new 4.5-story parking garage at approximately 25 South K Street, based on the competent substantial evidence from the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Beach land development regulations, historic preservation requirements.
The 4.5 feet.
I got the,
4.5 stories.
I got a motion, can I get a second?
Second,
Okay, any discussion?
Yes.
All those, you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You said 4.5 feet, so you're really,
4.5 stories, not 4.5 feet.
no, 4.5 stories, yes.
Yes,
So you're really approving what they said in front of you.
it would be a major provision for the to ask them to go back, and I think we would be setting this back about a year if they didn't apply.
You know, setting the
If they
precedent,
didn't appeal it.
setting the precedent here.
Oh, we're 8 feet short of the Lucerne.
Nothing you do necessarily sets a precedent, just
What?
to be clear.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
nay,
Nay.
Would you like to take roll on that?
Yes.
Yeah, roll call on that.
That's a tie.
Yes.
Anthony, 70.
You know, Elaine
yes,
and Ken,
Yes.
Laura,
nay,
Bob,
Yes.
Michelle. Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry.
All right.
Yes. And DeVoe,
It passed.
and DeVoe.
It passed.
No, you need to say yes or no.
You say yes or no, answer.
I would think I'm gonna do.
You abstain?
I say
No, you need to vote.
No, you need to vote.
Oh,
I don't have to.
You do. Under Florida law, you have to vote unless you have a voting conflict of interest, which you have not declared, you have to vote.
I want to keep discussing it.
but you gotta vote.
I'm not gonna do it. Because I really believe we have.
Do we stop the meeting at this point?
Let me get one more, Ed
Well,
LeBlanc,
it's gonna turn out, it's gonna come out the same.
Ed LeBlanc,
Nay.
nay. Now we're down to. What's the vote?
Clerk Tally?
4-2.
4-2. So you can vote nay and everybody votes, then you voted back.
It can be 5-2. We just want to agree.
And I understand the significance in doing that.
I'm gonna vote for it. And I'm gonna tell you why. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay, one year one.
Based on June, I told my wife, based on June 25th. No, June 11th, 25th. We approved. it. So. We did. So it did. It passed. But you know, I'm gonna tell you this. I hope. And I will be ecstatic. This goes off without a hitch.
we all.
We have to vote, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Would you like,
Those 5-2? Yes.
would you like to go through the conditions on the plan development or just move to the motions?
We can brief them briefly.
You don't have to, I just thought I'd offer.
We want to read them?
Sure.
Yeah. Poetry reads them based on your previous vote. I would suggest that in this, you make a motion where you're only recommending that option 1, including the leaving wall and mural, be inclusive of the approval for the plan development. Design option 1 for the garage. Design one for the garage, sorry.
So do you want me to read all the conditions or I'll highlight the ones that aren't in your staff report. I think that's probably what's relevant.
Yes, sir.
So any substantial alterations to the site plan, including alternatives to relocation of 17 South N Street, such as a park, will be heard by the HRPB as a major site plan amendment. Also recommending, based on your previous motion, I am not speaking for the board, but reading the tone here, that only option 1 is being recommended as the condition, and that a green wall and mural are strongly
They're required.
required.
And it's option number 1 for the design of the garage.
Option number 1 for the design of the garage are only recommended by the HRPB, not option 2. And the only other added condition is that one about the relocation of the electrical pole. To say that electric utilities will coordinate the relocation and include a minor site plan approval for the location of that pole. That is something that I would highly encourage you to include as a condition.
Yeah.
Do they do underground utilities at all with that? Do they?
Yes.
Well,
Done.
there's already a significant amount of undergrounding downtown. This pole is associated where the undergrounding that was recently done comes out of the ground.
Oh.
Oh, so we just put it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's right there. It's like, dude. Didn't see the pole. All right, so we need a
Okay.
motion, please.
I move to recommend to the commission approval with the conditions that are stated in the additional condition that the green wall and the mural must stay in order to obtain the landscaping waiver. Ordinance 2026-05, commonly referred to as the K Street garage plan development, based on the competent and substantial evidence provided in the staff report and in the testimony at the public hearing.
Does your motion also include the other additional conditions that,
Yes, that was added by
okay,
staff.
yes. So there are 3 additional conditions.
I'm sorry.
The two,
The substantial alterations have to come back to you all, that only option 1 for the design of the garage, which is the landscaping wall and the mural, is your recommendation. And the relocation of the electric utility.
Well, no one's gonna do the garage with the utility pole there, so.
Right.
So
Yes, that's my motion.
the landscaping wall, and come back to us. You say that?
No, that in order for us to give them the waiver, or for us to recommend for the commission to give them the waiver on the landscaping requirements. The green wall should stay,
The wall and the murals.
and the mural.
And the pole move.
Do you want it to be tied to the waiver, or the way, because based on your motion for the certificate of appropriateness, the way I was reading it is that your only recommendation for approval is if the landscaping wall and mural stay. Period.
Yes.
Okay.
so it really doesn't need to be tied to the waiver because you're not approving any other version regardless.
Well, I think it's important that everyone knows that I want it because of the waiver.
We can include the reasoning.
All right, can you add the landscaping plan? The landscaping plan should be updated, so. What's for review for the citizens, you add that there, make stipulation.
Is that in our purview?
The landscaping plans will be updated when they finish the site plan process and go in for permitting, and will be required to be regardless. So I don't think that needs to be added as a condition.
Well, are you gonna have that ready for the commission?
We don't have specific commission dates. I don't want to speak for their team, but I think that would be a tight
Let me
turnaround.
rephrase it. Before you bring the final review or the final reading, you're gonna have the landscaping and the civil plan update for review online so people can see.
No, not online for the public. That's not something that we can do.
I don't know, should I say what it is? I don't, I got.
But it would be available for, by record request.
Yes.
From the building department.
Why should people have to put in for a record request that they should be reviewing right now, because they already submitted it? What are we doing here? I mean, why can't people just take a look at?
So
what
for,
we are
for
doing?
context,
Why can't we just be so transparent? Why do we have to go through hoops? Put in a record request to get that?
unfortunately, under the Americans with Disability Act, we can't upload a lot of the architectural plans that were provided because they are not translatable by screen reader. So that's why, for instance, when we put your packets online, we don't include the attachments that the board receives. It's very difficult for us as a city to do that in a manner that doesn't open us up to legal implications.
You're trying to tell me right now, this is what you tell me. If you put it up online, you're opening yourself for legal.
Not me, the city. And I'm not trying to get the city sued, because I don't want to lose my job.
Oh, that's our job.
Now, in furtherance of what you requested, Mr. DeVoe, there are some fairly stringent stormwater requirements that have been adopted over time. I think it's a 3.5-year retention on site before it's released into the system. I do think that, based on your recommendation, a presentation or insight could be given by the water sewer utility to the commission before they make their final decision on the second reading.
And that is also a requirement of water and sewer for the building.
Yes.
Right, okay,
That was in our packet.
okay. Thank you for that. Now, what about the landscaping?
Well, they had that green wall.
No. You see, no. Can you say, why you got that, why you got that online? So we got that.
Well, again, as Ann mentioned, the landscape plan cannot be made ADA compliant. It will be available for people to review. They can review the landscape plan as it is now.
Yeah.
That demarcates where there are proposed palms, trees, what types of trees.
Is it online?
No.
Cannot be put online.
How do you get the information?
All right.
For a public records request.
You don't have a second on that motion?
You get a second on that? Could I get a second on the last motion?
I can't.
Did he finish the motion?
Second.
I don't know.
So we had a discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
All right, same amount.
You like to take rolling?
Elaine?
Yes.
Laura? Nay. Bob Johnson?
Yay.
Hank Rose?
Yay, be great.
Michelle Hoffman? Yeah. Ed DeVoe?
The tiebreaker again, just say.
Okay.
What is the problem?
And Ed LeBlanc?
Nay.
So Mr. DeVoe, we're down to.
Move forward. Anything be better than what we have now, he said.
Because he may.
All right, now we good?
I just say the motion passes.
Okay, motion passed, it's 5-2.
Five to two.
743.
It's 5-2.
All right,
So,
and we good?
and for the edification for the public, we have been discussing having a special city commission meeting due to the interest of this project. An actual date has not been chosen, but it will be advertised online. Mailers will be sent to the interested and affected parties. There will be a notice on the website. It is more than likely it'll be the latter part of May.
You know, Mr. Warner, I want to tell you. People have been anxiety about these projects. Of course, we're not transparent. Yes, it is. We're not transparent. And when I'm not beating up on staff, when I tell them, you know, in a lot of cities, a lot of municipalities, work here. When people review package, they have the entire package. We get bits and pieces. That makes it very tough. It's not only for the historical board. You got the CR, planning and zoning. They've been complaining about the same thing. People, you get a new crop type of people over there. We should see the whole deal so we can come to a whole conclusion of the matter.
Well, once again, I think we're getting what we need to get, and I want to thank staff for all their hard work on this.
Yeah, you really did a great job.
Jerry's stuff, and Thank you, Elizabeth, thank you.
Oh.
All right, we're all done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Wait,
Sorry.
Parts to your agenda.
Whoa.
So Elizabeth would like us to provide a department report on one of the items from that COA, originally for 17 South M. You did approve the relocation of 17 South M previously, the two structures, and there was an additional 126 South L included in that. How would you like to do it?
So when that came forward, that if those properties were to be relocated and a place found, the relocation would come back to you as 17 South M did tonight. And if they were unable to be relocated because a suitable place was not located, you authorized demolition. So just to let you know that that other structure will be demolished.
But now you've done this.
That's gonna be demolished because there's no suitable place or because the building is not feasible to be moved?
Well,
Or-
it's a combination. That building is technically 40 feet wide without its eaves, and our rights of way are only 40 feet wide. So that the limited area that it could be moved to, there were only two available sites, one being privately owned. And that person was not interested in having it moved there. To move it anywhere else would require cutting the building in half,
How do you normally do?
which they can do.
Yeah, they do.
They don't always do, but that is extraordinarily expensive, and it would again entail it going to a privately owned property, and somebody would have to be interested and open to taking that property. We'd also have to coordinate lifting stoplights, utility lines, and a number of other things that drive the cost up exponentially to move it beyond this area that we had been looking at originally, which was between K and Federal Highway. So right now, there is no feasible place for it to go, and it will not do well being cut in half structurally.
What was the address of the building again?
26 South L.
No.
We thank you for the update.
Well, thank
I know
Elizabeth
we've
for
all
bringing it up.
mentioned that we'd
Yes.
like to get updated on this.
It actually clarified, because it said one point it said three buildings, and then one point it said two buildings in the back, and I was wondering what happened to the other building.
Well, we had one that had a fire, and the whole back of it burned. There were several that were condemned by the building official. I can act as a building official in the absence of one. As in, I'm an architect, but we have a building official and an assistant building official. I can't wear every hat in that department. And we had a couple of other ones that were decided upon about 2 years ago, based on two different assessments for their cost of renovation. That the renovation cost far exceeded what the value of the building would be, and the commission decided they would prefer those to go. I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6 buildings.
I'll be bringing that gap money. Ready,
Mhm.
ready. Okay, I didn't do.
Oh, final reminder, if everyone is here for our next regular meeting, we won't do it tonight because everyone wants to go home. We're still waiting on electing a chair, so be ready.
And if everybody is here at the next meeting, I will say we can elect the chair then.
Just mentioning it because this is the first time this year we have had all of you, so.
It also will be Historic Preservation Month.
Still want to be chair.
We need a vice chair too, right? Chair and vice chair.
Yes, the whole,
Next time.
yeah, exactly. Just letting you all know.